Ladies and gentlemen, the Misk Global Forum 2019 is about to commence. Please take your seats.
ضيوفنا الكرام، منتدى مسك العالمي سيبدأ الآن. يرجى الجلوس على مقاعدكم.
In the digital age, the world of work is always changing. Tomorrow's professions don't yet exist, so how can you prepare for them? Choosing an education seems like looking in a crystal ball. If technology is reducing the work of people, what happens to the people? Our life experience will not be a valuable asset. We can be connected 24/7, so we never switch off. We are living longer than ever. So much longer that our pension schemes will run out of money. Welcome to a 60-year career marathon at sprint pace. The gig economy keeps growing, and our financial security is reduced in equal measure. We don't have jobs anymore, so we don't have colleagues. Where do we belong? Stop. If you didn't like the sound of that, try this. Innovation and technology are making life simpler and better. We live longer, in better health, so we can have many careers. Start working, pause working, resume working, taking time to care for loved ones, pursue our passions. We are gig workers and entrepreneurs, free and independent. Work-life balance is so last century. We integrate life and work. We decide what we do, and we decide to do meaningful work, good work, human work, that no robot or AI-powered device could do. With technology, we work remotely, on global and diverse teams, new friendships, new horizons. We belong to teams and projects with a purpose. We focus on acquiring future-proofed skills and adapt. We learn, unlearn, and relearn. So working for 60 years is an opportunity to design our working lives. In this age where success is defined by number of followers, we are not followers. We live our lives, shaping the future and assuming every twist and bend. We are reworking work. Welcome to the Global Youth Nation. Welcome to Riyadh. Welcome to the Misk Global Forum.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage our Master of Ceremony, E.D. Lush.
ضيوفنا الكرام، رحبوا معنا على المنصة بمقدمة المنتدى إيدي لاش.
Good afternoon and welcome, Your Royal Highnesses, Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen. May I welcome you to Misk Global Forum 2019. It is an absolute pleasure for me to be here. It's actually my second time in Riyadh in just 2 weeks, and I am so inspired by the young people that I meet every single time I'm here. I do feel like this is absolutely a country on the move. So I'm going to be back a few times in the next 2 days. For now, I've just got 2 jobs for you. One of them, I want you to have a look around at those corners of the room, workforce, workplace, workflow. Those are going to be hosting some very special events over the next couple of days. In order to get into them, you need to do something very special, which is to download the Misk Global Forum app on your phone. It's very easy. Even I can do it as a Gen Xer. All you do is take out your phone, go to the App Store, either for Apple or for Google Apps, search for Misk Global Forum, and download. And you will need your email address and the password that was sent to you. Now, the second job that I've got is an absolute pleasure. It is my supreme joy to welcome Executive Manager of Misk Foundation, Shema Hamidadeen, onto the stage. Welcome.
Brilliant.
Over to you.
There you go. Assalamu alaikum. Your Royal Highnesses, Your Excellencies, our valued partners, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2019 Annual Misk Global Forum. We've had the pleasure of working with some of you before. For others, this is the first time. But I want to thank every one of you, because this is our fourth and our largest edition yet. Over 7,000 participants registered. I'm very proud, and it amazes me how far we've come, but it also amazes me how far some of you have come, because this is also our most diverse edition, with over 120 countries represented. But let's not dwell on where we've all come from, and let's look at where we're all going, and that's the future. Because the future is inevitable, obviously, and because for all the young people here, you are the future. In every edition of the Misk Global Forum, we've looked at some element of how to prepare for that future, how you can prepare yourselves and all of us. And this year, we're focusing on work. I hope that doesn't sound too boring, because really, it's fundamental to our human experience. Let me show you. How many of you, particularly under the age of 35, have a job right now? With a show of hands, please. Okay. How many of you have got family or friends with a job? And if you haven't got a job, how many of you are planning to get one? Everybody has a job, it seems. One person. So I think it's safe to say that almost everyone, if not everyone, is touched by work in some way. So the changes to how, where, and when we work, the changes from technology, the changes from demographics, and that's all of you young people, and from expectations, again, all of you young people, will impact us all in some way. And I can guarantee you that's not going to be boring. The question is, are you going to let work be changed around you, or are you going to make those changes yourselves? Are you going to rework work? Let me ask some more questions, if I may. Are there any of you here that are worried about being replaced by technology, by an AI or a Mr. Robot? With a show of hands. How many of you are worried that you might not have that job for life? Are you even interested in having that job for life? How many of you are worried that you'll never be able to disconnect or turn off? Well, I'm not going to tell you that these aren't real problems or challenges, but I am going to ask you to bear in mind something our research has shown us time and time again. Your generation aren't the problem. You're the problem solvers. Think about it. Think about what AI and technology has to offer, what it's for. Rote, repetitive, remorseless work, work at its most boring. That's not you. Now think about what you, young people, we human, can offer. Ambition, creativity, responsibility. This is a chance for you to supercharge your talents, surprise us, show us, better yet, show the machines what you can do. And if you haven't already started, what better place to get started than here at the Misk Global Forum? Take that first step. If you want to start your own business or are looking to make a change in the one you're currently in, look to the Entrepreneurship World Cup Corner for inspiration. Or perhaps you can check out the It Starts With Us initiative just outside these doors and show us that it does truly start with you. Or roll up your sleeves in a skills garage in one of our 3 corners and work out what hard skills you need to complement your human soft ones. But most of all, to all the young people here, make your voice heard. It's your future, you've got the wheel. I'm telling you, please, throw some questions at our speakers and engage in our sessions. This is your forum. And on that note, let's dive straight into our first session, looking at just one of these issues, careers in a post-job future. I'd like to welcome onto the stage our moderator for the session and a very good friend, Dr. Bassem Awadallah. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is my real privilege to moderate the first session in the 4th edition of the Misk Global Forum. I have to take a minute to thank the Misk Foundation for this important event in creating a platform for people to come, partner, and create. It is a real commitment that has to be commended. Both the foundation and the effort of His Excellency Mr. Badr al-Asakir, whose commitment to empowering youth, to training, creativity, innovation, and diversity are nothing but exemplary. And these are the cornerstones of Saudi Arabia's transformation policy. It is my real privilege as well to have the honor to moderate a very distinguished panel this afternoon. It is a panel of key leaders in not only in the energy sector, but also in other sectors, because we have Mubadala. Mubadala is a company that is involved in 15 sectors in over 50 countries and has been at the forefront of technology and innovation. So the main thread, the main common denominator between all the companies that are on the panel this afternoon is their commitment to harnessing technology in order to create research and development and in order to allow for their people to get the required skills to move and build a new tomorrow. If my panelists are ready, I would like to invite them to come to the stage. We have His Royal Highness Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud. We have His Excellency Mr. Khaldoon Al Mubarak, and we have Mr. Patrick Pouyanné, the CEO and Chairman of Total. What a privilege. Thank you, Your Royal Highness, for hosting us this afternoon, for hosting us in this beautiful platform. I have to say that you insisted yesterday that the questions be from the floor, that the moderator does not ask questions and the questions should be from the floor and from the audience. Because you wanted this to be an interactive conversation. I would like to just beg your indulgence to have one question.
Before you get on your indulgence, if I may, with the permission of my colleagues. The host is Misk. The inspirer is Prince Mohammed. So we are all guests of Prince Mohammed. And I did ask my friend here to give you the floor for two reasons. One, we in Saudi Arabia have nothing to shy from sharing. We are proud people. We are a proud country with a proud youngsters. And we know our boys and girls, young and mature, they all have an inquisitive mind. And we really, truly must address their questions, not my questions or yours. Thank you.
I'm just worried that all the questions will be for you, Your Highness, and then we will all be left watching and we will not have anything to say.
That's the best case scenario.
I just want to start with one, if I may. Your Highness, you are a veteran of the energy industry. You have been in this sector for almost, if not more, than 37 years. You are today in a group of people the majority of whom are under the age of 30. They are young people. And their mindset is totally preoccupied with innovation, technology, workplace, workflow, entrepreneurship. These are the themes of the Misk Foundation. And they are totally preoccupied with it. I want to ask you, 37 years ago, were you preoccupied when you embarked on your journey? Were you preoccupied with these issues? And perhaps more significantly, today, how do these issues shape your mission and your objectives?
This is an entire story, not a it's I want to keep a lot of time for my colleagues here, and
we have 1 hour, so we have plenty of time.
I'll give it to you. I have briefers. They put me notes and they try to train me and coach me on how to make speeches. But usually I do this at the end of the day. Because it's my story. It's my life. There is no one can encapsulate a 37 years of a life, a career, and a joint accomplishment. One of the things that I'm proud of is that I can never be a claimant of my achievement, and I can never call it my achievement. It's the achievement of thousands of people that worked with me, without which I would be nothing, without which I would not be standing here. Wow. And this is the most fundamental thing that I learned. From then, it used to be called UPM. Now it's called KFUPM. To those of you who are UPMers, you're so proud also to know, or should be, well, I'm so proud to be your new head of your Board of Trustees. And I can't wait to jump in a plane and go and visit my old university, attending to a 2 years task of how to invigorate that university. But down there, they taught me a good lesson, that you cannot achieve anything alone. We used to do lots of group work. Our grades are determined by the effectiveness of the group, not the soul. And from there, I learned another more important lesson, which is social skills. The university was nothing more than an incubator of diversity, social diversity. People from the East meet people from the West, to the South, to the North, to the Midlands, with all this beautiful diversity, cultures, diversity of linguists, in a way, habits, even food, even the way they celebrate things, even the way they talk about things. And more important, it was an incubator for people with all those who you call them silver spooners, to those who came from the so-called destitutes of the 70s. They had nothing but a dream. They had nothing but a hope. And they had good grades to allow them to get to that university. The best enabler that we had at that time was UPM. It made sure that people of all trades, of all hopes, of all dreams, of all aspiration have an opportunity to upgrade their lot. If they were poor, they were hoping for a degree to get them to engineering, and then they can move to Aramco and SABIC. If they are princes, they still have dreams, because we had fathers and grandfathers that were big dreamers and created a nation for us. And we can never let them down. And that's why we have me, others of my generation, working for the 37 and the 35 and 30 years in public service. We were proud of our public service. We're still proud of our public service. And now we have even a new generation, headed by Prince Mohammed, who are proud to serve the country, will continue to be proud of serving the country. And in a way, there is no country that can aspire and inspire without enablers. So one of the things that I can see here, which is workforce, education, training, and resilience. And more important, self-esteem to keep you up and never be broken. Self-determination is an important input. And self-motivation. People highlight, and I'm sorry for taking the time, people think that the 37 years I had was a soft landing thing because I am a prince. That's true. But if I haven't had that self-motivation in me, the notion that you don't give up and you don't give in, I would have been not here today. I am humble enough, and I'm serious enough, and I'm Saudi enough to say in a Bedouin language, I have this grad mentality. And the little grad stick in the back of a camel, and he doesn't forlet and forgo until he gets away with what he wants. So welcome to the many grads down there too.
I am sure that your words are very inspiring to all of them. Thank you, Your Highness. I want to move to His Excellency Khaldoon Al-Mubarak. We will not get to the personal stuff now. We will keep it until later.
Thank you.
It is coming. I just want to ask you now a question about the responsibility of you as leaders in building tomorrow's industries. Where are you headed? What are you doing to build tomorrow's leaders and tomorrow's industries?
I think us, and I'm lucky enough to be on this wonderful panel with, I think, incredible leadership on both sides. We have our experiences over the last 37 years, 80 years, 20 years. And this experience, I think, is relevant for us today. But if I look at this crowd here, the relevance for this crowd is going to be more about the future. Because the future is very different than the last 30 years, than the last 20 years, than the last 10 years. It's very different. The industries that we have seen, that we've experienced, that we've been working in traditionally, not just in Saudi Arabia, not just in the United Arab Emirates, not just in France, I think the whole world, there is a massive disruption, a massive, call it disruption, call it transformation, that's happening in every single industry as a result of technology. Technology is disrupting every industry in different ways. And this disruption is going to change essentially your futures for the better, for mostly for the better. But it also means that how you, the future generations, look at employment, look at education, look at the careers you want to pursue. I think it's going to be very different than what we were looking at in terms of our generations. And our job then, as leaders today, collectively, is to make sure that we provide you the right opportunity, that we guide you, that we mentor you, that we lead you towards this future to enable you to succeed, because enabling you to succeed enables your countries to succeed, enables your institutions to succeed, and ultimately enables your societies all to succeed. Today, if I'm going to look at 4 examples. Manufacturing. With 3D printing, it's going to transform, disrupt manufacturing everywhere in the world. Transportation. Just an example, with ride sharing. The disruption that ride sharing is doing to transportation, industries, car manufacturers, it's going to change dramatically that industry. Media. Today, you look at with 5G, with your phones, your tabs that you all hold, how you look at media, how you look at entertainment, is going to transform dramatically over the next 20, 30 years. The healthcare sector. Healthcare sector is going to be one of the biggest sectors to be disrupted by technology, again, for the better. Today, the life expectancy of your generation will be arguably plus 10, maybe plus 20 years of the life expectancy of the previous generation.
Mubadala is involved in most of these sectors.
Because this is the future. This is the future. We have to be investing. This is the sectors that we have to be investing in. When you look at diversifying your economy, when you look at investing in sectors that are going to generate the best returns in the future, it's these sectors I've described, among many, and it's really looking at even the traditional sectors like the sectors that my 2 colleagues on stage represent, which is the oil and gas and energy sectors. It doesn't mean these sectors are going to die. No, these sectors will continue to grow, but technology will have its own influence into that space. So my advice really to this group here around the room here is embrace technology, focus on really preparing yourself and being open-minded about any sector you're involved in, because every sector is going to be affected by technology. Rather than fighting it, embracing it, innovating, being willing to innovate, being willing to test yourself in new things, and be excited. I mean, really, this is I'm very excited about the future, because the future has tremendous opportunities to this generation that maybe our generations didn't have.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Monsieur Pouyanné, workforce. Do you see an evolution in the workforce of Total? What are you doing to recruit people? Do you find it difficult to recruit people in the energy sector these days when everybody is talking about other sectors?
Yes and no. No for Total, yes for the sector, maybe. No, I mean, it's clear that energy, as Haldun said, as His Highness said as well, is a sector which is fundamental to everybody. It's we provide a fundamental need for any person in the room, for any development of any country. We need energy. Maybe you can get rid of tobacco, you can never get rid of energy. That's the point. No, you cannot get rid of. You can get rid of tobacco, Your Highness. I will tell you. I'm sure. No, but I mean, so that's true that in the history of mankind, we are permanently looking, and we need to have perspective on energy. 300 years ago, we were using wood, and then we went to coal, and then to oil. Then we went to gas, to nuclear. Now we speak about renewables. It's a permanent quest for a reliable, affordable, and cleaner energy. That's a fundamental quest. And there are debates which are very important today, because the energy world is facing a huge challenge. On one side, to give more energy to more people on the planet, and and they all want a cheap energy, I can tell you. They complain immediately if you want to raise the price of energy, even in the kingdom. And on the other side, there is this climate challenge, which is for all people working in Total and the young people we want to recruit and to attract, a beautiful challenge of can we make compatible this need for energy and making it compatible with the climate change and less carbon. You know, there is a sort of antagonism, but it's not an antagonism because we have to be optimistic. And the optimism is that we can innovate, and we can innovate by recruiting talents. But it's clear that today in the Western world, and I see, by the way, a very big difference between what happens in France and the Western world and what is happening here in the Middle East or in Asia. Today, we can't face, I'm sure that Saudi Aramco face no difficulty to attract talents in the kingdom. Sometimes the Western world is a little more complex, but you have to go and discuss with young people to share your passion with them, passion to transform. And my message when I go to universities, tell them, okay, you can maybe boycott, but boycott, I can tell you, is not a good idea at all, or you can act. And they all want to do renewables today, new things, new energies, you know, and there is room to make technologies, and we need to continue to develop technologies in renewables, in batteries, and Total is a player of all these fields. And we want to adapt ourselves to these technologies, but I always convince them, okay, you come, you do that, you will come in Total, you will see that we are a digital company. We are just putting in, establishing a digital factory with 300 talents, so there are room in energy companies for plenty of talents. Providing they share their passion for innovation and to build the new energy system that the world requires. And the new energy system that will require, of course, we will require some hydrocarbon, for sure. We'll need oil, we'll need natural gas, we'll need renewables, solar, wind, we'll need batteries, we'll need even technology we don't manage today. I mean, we don't imagine the world, but we have to be to believe in it. And so at the end, we manage to recruit people. We can attract talents. If you manage to share this passion with them, and again, it's a segment, it's an industry which is, nobody was speaking when I joined, I'm not so old as Ines, but I'm a little old, by the way. I met this person here, I think, 22 years ago. You know, we were together, young people negotiating some projects in the region already.
Which ones?
The Dolphin project, you know. I will not mention it. He was in front of me, Haldun, you know. So we raced together on both sides, in the government of UAE, myself in my company, you know. So it's funny, by the way, to see that it's a good example that people can learn at any stage. And then if you have the ambition, as the ministers say, I have a motto which is, if you want, you can.
If you want, you can.
Never give up. If you want, you can. You can do many things. You know, it's an easy motto, but I want to transmit to all the young people. Whatever you want, you can do it. You will find the people to help you. And you can do it if you listen. Please listen to others. You will learn from others. You can do it if you work in a team. You can do it with your own talent. Because at the end, it's fundamentally to be authentic, to play to your strengths, to your talent, and then you will manage your dreams and build the world of tomorrow.
Thank you, sir. I will turn now to the audience. I hope you are ready with your questions. Please, there are microphones. Sorry.
Just a comment about age.
Please.
Oh, I made something wrong there.
I'm proud of the service. I'm 30. I've served for 37. It takes no calculator to figure out what is my age.
47.
But, to be politically correct with my wife, I have to continuously tell her I'm the oldest man in the room and she is the youngest lady in the whole place. So she's here watching me, so I have to be politically correct.
I'm going to ask the organizers just to be ready with their microphones, and to ask anybody who wants to ask a question, please, to just identify yourselves, your name and the organization or the company that you represent, and to who the question is addressed. So please address it to one of the panelists. As you said, Your Highness, there is no censorship here because you are open and you want to discuss, but I will use my privilege as a moderator to stop anybody asking you about the next OPEC meeting and to ask Khaldoon about Manchester City. Apart from that,
or the IPO.
or Aramco.
Otherwise, I will refer them to the same answer I gave in the FIR.
Okay, let's start with the gentleman here.
Okay.
السلام عليكم. عمر بن شلويح المسعود القحطاني.
I am Masoud Al-Qahtani. My question, I am from OK Company for the Businessman Services. My website is ok.com. Your Highness, my question is addressed to you. First of all, Your Highness, in commenting about what you have said, the same as you are proud of your civil service, we are proud of you as being the leaders of our country and all our allegiance, starting from our ancestors and what has been instilled in us by our grandfathers. We will also instill it in our children because you're the best leaders for the best princesses, one state after one state and one pledge after the other. My question, Your Highness, please. My question is, would you think that within the next 10 years, as of 2019 to 2029, in the light of the very heated competition by the governmental agencies and departments to serve us, we as entrepreneurs, this race that has been crowned the day before yesterday, now this race is just takes seconds between the different governmental agencies. A year ago, the Ministry of Trade was so proud of establishing the commercial registry within 30 seconds. The day before yesterday, one of the governmental agencies, which works in tourism, will issue licenses in 20 seconds, 2 minutes. So it's a heated race. Do you think that in the light of the current enablers and in the clear view of the leaders of our country, the custodian of the two mosques, God preserve him, under his reign, do you believe that in the next 10 years, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia will be able to achieve its natural ranking and status as being one of the first 5 economically successful countries in the world?
But you see, my memory chip is short. So.
Would you like to answer the question first?
Because of age.
بتحب تجاوب هذا السؤال سمو الأمير؟
No, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
If I can take 2 for 1, that's okay.
My name is Engineer Shafiq Maitla.
You're so
I'm
proud
from Pakistan.
the way you. I didn't hear you.
Yeah, I'm from Pakistan and working for a Saudi company, Al Aqil. I came here in 1977.
But please make your question brief,
Yeah,
and it has to be a question, please, because we need to take as many people as possible.
My hobby had been to watch the growth of Kingdom of Saudi Arabia from day one, from 1977. And I agree with Your Royal Highness for the KFP UPM, Dhahran, which was the wonderful institution.
Thank you.
Now the revolution came when Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, he gave an idea about modernization and technology. I have been worried in 1978, 1979, when I was in Royal Commission Jumbo. The Saudi engineers were very shy to talk, but very shy to have the knowledge.
What is the question, sir?
So
please.
my question is this, that now the modernization and technology is going very fast, and I want to understand that in this scenario, how the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is going to meet the challenges.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's answer these 2 questions because they are 2 big questions.
If I,
please.
Can I start with the
please?
Big difference between 78 and 2019. We have thousands and thousands of Saudi engineers, mainly male, and now they're being competing, ladies are also competing with them. I have to confess that I am me, after all of the 37 years, I've been educated by them now. They teach me technologies. They tell me, my son Salman here is the one who fixed my iPhone and tell me what to do with it. And he keeps looking at me with a mesmerizing looks of my other son Khalid, he teach me how to take pictures and what to. My daughter Sultana, she's here, she thinks that one day it's about time that I should pack and she takes over my place. I recruit young engineers, young economists, young lawyers. I honestly learn from them. They are the ones who are harnessing the new technologies. I am just there to enable them to reach out to their own goals and their own dreams. The notion here of the so-called workforce and workplace and workflow, I'll give it to you in 2 minutes. Workforce, you have to train your young people, proper training, proper education, proper ethical commitments, being honest, being fair, team player, as I said earlier, well-trained and having that inquisitive mind, the continuous quest of learning. And I don't like people to see them learning in this narrow-minded approach. Learning is an endeavor. It has to be open to everything and anything, from reading history to reading about engineering to reading about economics. I look at the energy, and our two friends here can maybe concur with me. Oil, as just oil, not energy, requires something like 8,000 different disciplines. From civil engineering to mechanical engineering to petroleum engineering to law to even medical. The idea that you can understand oil without knowing everything, even sociology, even history, even law, even economics, even management, engineering, that you can talk to and you can understand them and they can understand you, is just totally absurd. The idea that you could be a narrow-minded, one-disciplined person is gone, and gone forever, because it would not lead you to anything but being lonely in a little box that you've created in your mind and nobody created for you. Being multidisciplinary, being an inquisitive person, adapting to new changes, looking forward for different things, learning more things, is just there. I got it built on me because I knew in my work that I would not be there without being equipped to have that multidisciplinary things. Otherwise, I would not have been able to understand lawyers, economists, or what have you and what have you. The workplace, you cannot recruit young people and you assume this so-called pharaonic principle, لا أريكم إلا ما أرى ولا أهديكم إلا سبيل الرشاد. It has to come bottom up. The energy within the youngster has to be forlet. It has to be allowed to gusher out like an oil field, like an oil well, you know, without creating that atmosphere of enabling them to think. And by the way, I don't know who created that let's think outside the box. I don't see the point of having a box when thinking, because it's either you think without a box or you box yourself without thinking. And you cannot have a workforce that is not permitted to think, and not only to think, but have the means to transform these the thinking into ideas. And you have the platform to allow them to share it with peers and you create that atmosphere of collaborative, cohesive group effort where the principle of ownership is respected. A youngster would like to believe that he owns what he has created, his idea. A group of youngsters would like to have that sense of ownership. If you give them that sense of ownership, they will work and work hard and labor hard because they see that their ideas is being challenged, and when they succeed with it, they are rewarded because they will get that recognition. Our job, we have preceded that part. We have gone through it. We went through it. It's our job is to enable them to do all of that. Workplace, it has to be that. It is not about luxury offices. It is not about beautiful entrances. It is not about the seat and what have you. It's the incubator that allow people, human beings, to work, to genuinely put their ideas together. Workflow. You cannot deceive yourself and you say the world is not connected. Well, the world is connected and everybody is connected and you cannot hide anything. And you could work at home. In an occasion, a year or so ago, I spent a few months outside the country, me and my wife. If you ask the people that work with, well, the people I work with, they will tell you I was making them labor harder
when you were out.
When I was out, because as I was alone in complete isolation, I was reading more, I was getting them to work. I can vouch that everybody today, in today's technology, can work from home, and nothing will be disrupted, and nothing would be disturbed. But with workflow, and I'm sorry to take much of your time, people need to be disciplined to have time to work and time for joy. At the end of the day, human are human. They need to have the happy hour. The happy hour comes in different ways. The happy hour in exercising, the happy hour, more important, in being with your family. Being with your family is much more precious, much more important than anything in the world. Because remember, as a parent or as a mother, as a father or as a mother, your first and foremost priority is to make sure that you attend to your own children, without which you would not have a country, without which you will not have a society, without which you will never be rewarded for the good work you do. I go home proud because I am trying to create an example for my own wife and for my children. I go home for my wife and children to ensure that they see me exhausted and tired, because I know that if I do it, they will do it. And if I don't do it, I'm not creating that example for them. And if I cannot create an example for my own family, how on earth I could create an example for the people that work with me, and how I could penalize them for not being with their families. So workflow means also that you need to give people time to live their life. Otherwise, they would not come in the morning, had enough sleep, had enough time with their families, and are excited to come to the workplace.
Thank you, sir. We have 15 minutes. I'm going to ask anybody who has a question for His Excellency Khaldoon. Who has a question for His Excellency Khaldoon? Go ahead, sir.
Hello. My name is Ibrahim Al-Rashid from Saudi Aramco. I'm very proud to be here today. Thank you very much for sharing your words of wisdom with the audience today. For your Royal Highness and your Excellencies, my question would be for Mr. Mubarak is about disruptions. You mentioned that point about how the industry is being disrupted with different technologies, correct? My question is about the energy industry in specific. Given Mubadala's investment within it, what do you foresee for the future of energy given those disruptions, especially with the workforce?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. A question for Patrick, for Mr. Pouyanné. Anybody has a question for Monsieur Pionnet? Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jafet Monsaf. I'm a representative of CGA from Algeria, and what I wanted is to share with you two preoccupations. So while developing technology and so on, we've been rushed into a problem to think about the future of work and like engaging, like helping youth to go on with the actual world. But for me, my preoccupation is how to manage the balance. How do you see, like, we can manage this balance between engaging and helping youth and empowering them and ensuring the reinsertion and the durability of works, because we are seeing that the retiring ages are getting longer and
I think we understand the question. You understand the question, Mr. Pionnet?
Yeah, I think.
Okay, thank you. Tfaddal Khaldoun. Sorry, I'm cutting you short, but because of time.
Khaldoun, please go ahead.
Well, thank you for the question. You're asking me, with His Highness, the Minister of the most important energy-producing country in the world, and the CEO of one of the leading energy companies in the world. So I'll try to be careful in how I answer this question. I think the future, when it comes to energy, it's about two sides. One is about efficiency. Everybody is now focusing on efficiency and about cost of production, whatever that might be. Oil, gas, power, in whatever form that might be, renewable or conventional. So I think the efficiency side and technologies that lower the cost of production and do it which brings us to the bridge, in an environmentally friendly and sustainable manner. This is key. Today, and I think I'll touch on what Patrick said earlier, this generation, the period we live in right now, is a completely different period. Right now, the environment, sustainability is something that is absolutely top of the agenda to everyone. You, the youth, the populations, the investors, the financiers, the bankers. This is the name of the game right now for the future when it comes to the energy industry. How to continue to evolve in an environmentally friendly way, in a sustainable way. And I think that technologies that really play in that space, in these three spaces I identified, the environment, sustainability, and efficiency, I think these are the sort of technologies that we look at to invest in when it comes to the energy space.
Thank you, sir. Monsieur Pionnet.
Yes, it's an interesting question, because a young man who is afraid to have a longer life. It's incredible. You are in a generation, yes, for sure, you will have a longer life than ourselves. It's one of the huge transformation of the planet, in fact. In the last 20 years, we have extended the life of our people by almost 10 years, and it's an acceleration. Thanks to all these technologies and health and all that, it will continue. So don't be afraid. You will have a long life, and in fact, I think there will be a matter of, in terms of education, to have an education and training along the life. Contrary to what we've done in our generation, we were learning hard when we were young and then working and then segment. I think today it's a matter of continuing to train people along all their life. The digital revolution is obliging us to do that in all our companies. We are obliged to, and today we see in a company like Total, our younger people are much more efficient with all their tools than we are, which is a challenge for the leadership of a company, I can tell you, because they can go quicker than us, so we have to adapt ourselves. And I think what is asking, one of the requests of a company is then we have to train the people who are 40 to 50 years to be able to also manage all these tools and be more as efficient as the youngsters. But I think it's for you, the young generation. Don't be afraid. You will find your place. And don't be afraid by these, I think, honestly, all these we have always technological revolution in the history of the mankind. And people are afraid we will destroy jobs. No, we will not destroy jobs. We will create new jobs. We will create new jobs which will offer you more opportunities, in fact, with all these digital technologies. So I'm very optimistic. Of course, we are eliminating maybe some jobs which, in fact, were maybe not so funny, to repeat always the same tasks and to try to eliminate eliminate part of these repetitive works and to replace them. But new jobs, I think, is a chance for your generation. So, and it's the same in our energy companies. You know, we see evolutions quickly, and we can offer you and to all the talents new type of jobs with a more digital approach. Again, when you speak about, you think about the future of energy with solar plants, it will be more decentralized, more distributed, more digitalized, and so all this will have to be taken to be more efficient. So I'm a strong believer that don't worry, you will find your a work which will please you, and you will be able to exercise all your talents.
Your Royal Highness.
Since everybody's promoting job, I'm going to throw a few ideas. We're recruiting everything. We have a renewable program, both solar and wind, and it will also get us into manufacturing. So we will be exporting even electricity and exporting panels and everything to the magnitude of 200 to 300 megawatt. We are moving with our nuclear program. We will be doing the whole thing, including a huge local content program on both renewable and nuclear. My dearest and nearest program is efficiency. We have been successful with SEEK, and we will continue working in improving our efficiency at all levels. And we're working in collaboration with all the industries in Saudi Arabia and abroad to improve that work, and we're recruiting there. We have a new program, and I was told by the young cadets that work with me, don't you ever mention it, but I'll give a hint of it. We're working on a novel, à la française, a novel program, which is how to create or generate demand for oil. Knowing that we will be challenged by electrical car and this and that, and I have my son Salman having a hard time accepting not being environmentally enough. So we are working on this to avoid the conventional market and create new ways of using oil and gas different from the conventional market. I'm not going to talk about it. I will let it come out, and you will be very impressed. However, we are targeting no less than 9 million barrels of growth of demand. Half of it, we will keep it ourselves. Certainly, I will not share it with Mubadala or Masdar. We are, as I have made a declaration 2 weeks ago, working on this circular carbon economy. We do see carbon has a value, and we're becoming too Qasimi about it, so we are not going to let it go all the way. We're going to suck oil until the last molecule of carbon. And we will make sure in that endeavor, we are also part of the solution in attending to the environmental issue. We are becoming a more consumer-oriented country. The world requires energy in the most energy in the most efficient way, and with a climate-friendly notion. If we don't pick that up as a good signal and move for it and be the pioneers of it, while we are the biggest holder of hydrocarbon reserves, I don't know what we'll be doing. But that program will be the incubator of thousands and thousands of Saudis, and non-Saudis too, because they are also partners. Let us not forget that Saudis' jobs are important. But non-Saudis' jobs, high-quality non-Saudi job, is important, is essential. And we really have to be honest with ourselves. Non-Saudis had helped these countries. I was educated by non-Saudis. I was worked with non-Saudis. I have a great deal of gratitude for so many non-Saudis, and they were part of our dream. And we should recognize that, and we should be thankful for that. And we should never let our so-called nationalism be defeatist, but a cause of being proud and being self-assured that we can say thank you to those who helped us.
Well said. Thank you, Your Highness. There are many ladies in the audience. I have not seen a lady raise her hand. No ladies? Please, go ahead. Brief question, because time is running out and we need to get a number of questions.
Maybe they realize that my wife is here, so they want to be so friendly with me.
تفضلي.
Assalamu alaikum.
بس قربي الميكروفون, please.
Thank you, Your Royal Highness. That was a very inspiring speech. I think you summarized a lot of books in management for all our young, employees. My question is, my concern is the female in the energy sector. What's your plan in integrating more female in the oil and gas sector?
Females in the energy sector. Okay, let's have one more question, please. Go ahead.
There is another lady there, I think, in the back. In the back here. Excuse me.
في واحدة هناك سيدي بعدين بناخذها. We will get.
There's one lady there.
This is Elma Sharif, previously worked in the energy sector, currently with EY. My question is about the sustainability. If you could...
We can't hear you, sorry, again.
My question is about sustainability. If you could comment on one statement, where do you benchmark the Saudi amongst the top leading country in terms of energy sustainability?
Okay, where do you rate
excluding the mega project?
Okay, the lady in the back, please.
There is a lady there, I think.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
تفضلي هناك. This lady, yeah. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Ramona. I'm working as a consultant for Teneo Brussels. My question will be for all the panelists. If you will have the opportunity to start all over again, to say let's be young again, what would you do different, or where would you focus, or
Excellent.
what would you study? Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for the question. Please, Your Royal Highness, you want to start? You have 3 questions.
I will answer that question. Please. And I will give the
Please.
Since I was in the intermediary, I finished my intermediary school, which is Kafa'a. I made a determination that time that I will be a UPMer. And I will work in the energy industry.
How old were you then?
I was 14.
14.
And I can still remember where I was sitting with a friend who joined the UPM, and he was talking to me about UPM. And in that evening, I made that determination. If I rewind and there is no pause in life and there is no rewind, as you know, unfortunately. However, if I was to pause and rewind, I will choose the same
again.
career.
Bravo. Someone wanted to be a diplomat, I think.
No, I have no. My wife, my life.
Maybe I would have been a cook. I think you could ask my children and my wife, and they say that if you were a chef, it would have probably given us a better time and quality time. Proud to be a good cook for my wife and children too.
No, but honestly, you are asking a question to people who have an incredible life, in fact. You know, when you become leader of an international company, a global company like Total, you have no regrets. So I would have never thought when I was young that I could have such a career and such a job. So, you know, I have the chance to lead an incredible company where, by the way, it's an oil and gas company, but we have 30% of women and 25% of my executive are women, you know.
Bravo.
So there is room for women in oil and gas, just for one reason, which was perfectly explained by His Excellency, His Highness, is because, you know, we have lawyers, we have accountants, we don't have only engineers on the ground, even if we have women which are very good in these jobs as well. We have plenty, as you said perfectly, the energy business requires a lot of talents, not only technical talents, you know, and so it's something which, and today at the executive committee level, I have 2 women out of 7, you know, so it's Come and join the energy, young women in the room. Don't worry, there is room for you. But again, no, I think no, I would not change a lot. Haldun,
you wanted to be a diplomat.
Actually, I did want to.
He is, in fact.
I wanted to, when I first started my career, I wanted to be a diplomat. But I think as life will show everybody, I think in life you will see a journey that you will navigate. My navigation went from wanting to be a diplomat to entering in the oil and gas field to moving into the investment world to running a nuclear corporation to being involved in football. I think, I look back, of course, I don't regret anything and I wouldn't do anything differently. I think this is, what life gives you. You make the best of it. And then when you need to pivot, you pivot. And when you pivot, you don't look back, and you always look back at your history with as an experience that's constantly evolving.
Thank you. Your Highness, you had a question about the female participation in the energy sector.
And sustainable. Sustainable development is something that is already been defined and what have you. But mainly when it comes to energy, it is nothing more than using your natural resources in a sustainable way, which is prolonging the use of that in the most environmentally sound way, with the idea that you also make revenues of it to ensure that you use these revenues to improve your well-being and the society, be it in terms of infrastructure, in development programs, in things that make you gradually phase out to a different, more diverse economy and what have you. Ask yourselves, with the exception of Saudi Arabia, and I'm talking about OPEC countries and non-OECD countries, ask yourself, with the exception of Saudi Arabia, the UAE, the Kuwait, what are these countries that have done a remarkable job in attending to that definition? None, unfortunately. There are countries that had oil, gas, water, farming, all sorts of things. Ask yourself, what did they do with it? They went from worse to worse. So we should be proud of ourselves and the generations that preceded us, that they pushed us all the way to here, to a country, at least in Saudi Arabia, where it is enabled, it is resourceful with people, educated, trained people, still have a great deal of hopes, still have a great deal of infrastructure, aspiring to reach out to their dream, well endowed with resources. All of these things can lead you to say, I have a future, I just need to roll up my sleeves, and I really need to put the hours and the time and the effort and the thinking to get you there. As to the other question with
female participation.
Well, as you know, female now are enabled. We have education programs, we have training programs all over the country.
In the energy sector.
I have to say something that is not being shared with so many, unfortunately, and we should be proud of. Equal pay. This country has a good equal pay. I was with friends in the summer, not this summer, the summer before, and there was a headline in the Financial Times of a serious issue being discussed in the British Parliament, House of Commons, about equal pay in Britain. And there were three ladies standing while I was with my wife visiting friends. And I turned around, I said, do you know that in Saudi Arabia we have equal pay? And I could see their eyes mesmerizing and turning left and right. And with the image of Saudi Arabia and how women are treated in Saudi Arabia, they couldn't believe me. And I said, check our payroll. So we have an equal pay within Saudi Arabia. It is not there in the UK. I think what Prince Mohammed did and the vision is doing is to call a spade and to allow people to work and to have an equal opportunity. And I don't see anything wrong with that. This country, in this few days, this city became a city of joy. People are festive. People are enjoying outing. Families are going out with their children. There was no abracadabra. There was no hobila. There was no accident. I mean, the floor, the ceiling did not drop. The floor did not open. And hell and heaven we haven't seen them yet.
Alhamdulillah.
And we're just a proud people.
Alhamdulillah.
End of story.
Your Highness, I have been given just 3 extra minutes. I would like to ask a question myself, if I may.
Sure.
Yesterday, in a brief conversation I had with Your Highness, you said that success happens as a result of failures. This is a young crowd. They have their lives ahead of them. I'd like to hear from the 3 of you about success and failure, please, as quickly as possible. Monsieur Pouyanné. You haven't had any failures in your life.
No, you have plenty of failure. But I have one motto. When you fail once, you don't have the right to repeat it. So you have to take lesson. And because you progress through failure, of course, because you miss some things. But when you made a mistake, don't repeat it. And I think if you keep that in mind, you will progress.
At what age?
At any age, you know, you make mistake at any age. That's a question of being young or older, you know, because you can't take risks. But again, don't repeat a mistake.
Khaldoon.
No, 100%. You will make mistakes. You will make mistakes, and if you don't make mistakes, that means you were not courageous enough to take a gamble. And I think you have to. This is the way it works. All of us. I think I've made a lot of mistakes. But the lesson is about learning from your mistakes. Hopefully the mistakes are not lethal, as long as the mistakes are obviously within a certain limit. And obviously the key lesson is not to repeat the mistakes. But the key, you will make mistakes. Don't shy away from taking some courageous decisions throughout your life. Keep pushing, and when you make mistakes, don't worry about it. The most successful people in the world have all had huge mistakes in their lives.
You have the last word, Your Royal Highness.
I am an embodiment of mistakes.
We cannot tell them.
What carves you, what keep you, what make you is mistakes. You learn more from your mistakes. You never learn from your successes. You become big-headed person if you continue to be successful. Mistakes makes you ouch. Mistakes make you twist and turn in your bed. Mistakes makes you swear that you will never repeat that and this and that. And in the final analysis, it coins you. So if you are shy and unwilling to make mistakes, as Khaldoon was saying, stay home and watch the world go past you, and you're there alone.
Thank you very, very, very much for this. I'm sure that the audience has found this as interesting and exciting as I have found it. Thank you very much, Monsieur Pouyanné. Thank you, Khaldoon.
One word, if I don't mind.
Of course.
I cannot move from here without saying I've been moved with this wonderful audience.
Thank you.
I have to tell the youngsters there, because this is a rare occasion that I could get together with a young crowd as this. And I direct it to everybody, but especially Saudi young men and women. The vision is there. It's 2030. That's the vision. The mission is yours, and you've got a torch. It's called knowledge, education, and training. I honestly cannot wait for the day that would come. A proud day for me, even if I was to see it from afar, that you reach out proud tall and proud, gazing to Prince Mohammed, saying, mission accomplished.
Wow. Thank you very, very much.
Pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage Faisal Abbas.
ضيوفنا الكرام، رحبوا معنا على المنصة بفيصل عباس.
Your Highnesses, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I can kindly ask you to take your seats so that we can start the next session. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, if I can kindly ask you to take your seats. Our next panelists are about to come on stage. خلي بس كده. الحضور الكرام لو سمحتوا التفضل بالجلوس.
Please take your seats. Please take your seats.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage Faisal Abbas.
ضيوفنا الكرام، رحبوا معنا على المنصة بفيصل عباس.
Thank you, thank you. Second time always works, I guess. So, Your Highnesses, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, my name is Faisal Abbas. I am the editor-in-chief of Arab News. It is a pleasure to be partnering with the Misk Global Forum once again this year. As Saudi Arabia's English language newspaper of record, I think it's extremely important for us to be moderating and managing the topic of the next session, which is the future of work. As we know, this kingdom's population consists of 70% under the age of 30. So in reality, as we've just seen in the very successful previous session, which is going to be hard to top, but nevertheless, we have a very interesting lineup of speakers. Just to put it in context, as we all know, as we've seen, societies are changing, technologies are changing, the nature of what we do and where we do it is also changing. Let me share with you a very small story that happened with us in Arab News. I joined in September 2016. We had 3 female employees. But given the winds of change that are blowing in Saudi Arabia, the change in laws and regulations, and we've just heard His Royal Highness speak about the equal pay drive, we decided to take the challenge and we launched our own initiative, which is called 50-50 by 2020, which means we took it upon ourselves to be the Middle East's first gender-balanced newspaper in the region. We started with 3 female employees. We are at 36%, and we are confident we'll be hitting our target for next year. However, change isn't only happening in Saudi Arabia. As our next panelists are going to show, change is happening all across the world. Indeed, 65% of school children today will have jobs that don't even exist. The format of this session is slightly different than the one before. We will invite each of the keynote speakers on stage to this podium to deliver a 5-minute speech, after which we're going to have a quick discussion. Given the shortage of time, I'm afraid we've had to cancel the question from the audience. However, our speakers will be around later on to talk to you after the session. Our first speaker is a Saudi princess, but that's not why she's invited to speak tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, our speaker is one of the few people who take every challenge with a smile. Last year, she was the project manager for one of the most successful events in Saudi Arabia, the Formula E, which happened for the first time in the kingdom. This year, she took on an even more challenging project. She was a part of the team that put together the Saudi tourism strategy, which we just saw recently, the country opening up for 49 nationalities who can all receive visas upon arrival. This, of course, is in her current capacity as the Vice President of the Saudi Tourism Commission. Please join me in welcoming Her Highness Princess Haifa Saud.
Hello, everyone. I must say, when I got the call to be a speaker here today, it was one of the best calls I got, simply because this panel in itself is so inspirational. What Misk has done over the past few years in transforming the lives of Saudi youth is mind-blowing. And I am so honored and so proud to be here today with all of you. I want to thank Faisal for the intro. When I was told I'm going to speak to youth, about life and workforce and what does the future hold within that regard and in that sense, I thought to myself, there's nothing better that I could tell you than to start with my experience and what I've been through. And to make you understand that even though you're going to go through different stages in life and you're going to come across different barriers and different challenges, with each era you're going to find new challenges you're going to have to learn how to cope with. And I must say, this new generation is really good at coping and is really good at learning how to coexist. When I started at HSBC in the UK, I'm not going to say how many years ago, at the time, location and geography was an issue. So I had to choose where I'm going to work, where I'm going to live, and make that a part of my life. So I had to move to the UK, and I embedded myself within their system because I felt it was the most place that would give me exposure to different elements of banking. I knew I wanted banking, but I had no idea what I wanted to do within banking. So I wanted the exposure. I wanted to see what would happen. I got that, and then I moved back to HSBC in Saudi. And when I did, I was the first woman ever to work on a trading floor in Saudi. Let me tell you, it took a while for my male colleagues to realize that I am a person and to engage with me. We overcame that. The next woman joined a few months later. They treated her as an alien as well. I said, guys, we're past that. But that's a barrier. I had a geographic barrier. And then I had a gender barrier. Fast forward, I'm not even going to say how many years later, I was asked to lead and head Formula E in Saudi Arabia. A woman in Saudi Arabia, my country. And I created a team, and this team, and I'm very serious when I tell you this, was made up of all young Saudis, men and women. And we led the biggest ever Formula E event to ever take place in the world, with first-time concerts. So it was youth, it was Saudi youth. But let me tell you what was different in Formula E. Women were empowered. Different people, youth, had a chance to experience different jobs. So not just because I worked in sports economy meant I could only do that. No, I could support on project planning. I can go talk to Formula E. I could go work on mass participation. I worked across the board as a Saudi youth. It was no longer I have to stick to the box I'm in. And although we look at today and we see that it's great that you're all connected and you're a part of the bigger picture and you're part of the globe as a whole, but what I've realized is that's making a lot of people very, very confused. They stop and they think, who am I? What am I meant to be doing? Where am I meant to be working? And I thought I have a chance here today to address that. And I'm saying, you can be anyone you want to be. You can work anywhere you want to be. We are fighting to change as policymakers and as people that work within the government. We are fighting to change the norms of regular FTE, which is full-time employment, rigid working systems, working hours, to more lucid and raising the grid and work horizontally. Because when you discover who you are and what you're passionate about, that's when you'll thrive. And that's when you'll be able to really stand for something and to deliver at your full capacity. Never did I think when I was working in banking would I one day be working within sports, or today standing here opening up my country for tourism. But my advice to you is seek opportunity wherever it may be, and use these tools that you are given today. You have no more barriers, no more geographical barriers, no more social norm barriers, no more cultural barriers. None of that exists anymore. Those walls were brought down. And you have the chance to move horizontally. So I encourage you, use those tools, use those training programs, use those skill sets, travel abroad, expand your mind, work in different sectors, work in different industries. It's not a definitive moment when you take a job that this is who you are. Learn who you are, get to know who you are, build yourself, build your skill set. Connect with the world, understand, see life in different perspectives, and come back and build and make your country to that. There are no more barriers. Your only barrier is you. today. And you heard the panel here before us. They said, if you don't go out there, if you don't take challenges, if you don't try, you will never know, and you will never find out. So if there's one thing I want you to take away today, is that I got to where I am because I tested all those barriers, all those limits. I tried it all until I reached a point where I found out who I really was, and I encourage you to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Highness, for an excellent first speech. Our second speaker for this evening is Her Excellency Sim Ann, who is the Singaporean Senior Minister of State for Communication and Information, as well as the Ministry of Culture and Youth. Your Excellency, stage is yours.
His Royal Highness, Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, Your Highness, Princess Haifa Al Saud, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to join all of you at the Misk Global Forum 2019. Globalization, rapid technological advancement, and societal change are the defining trends that youths of this generation have grown up with. It is very timely that we discuss these issues and their impact on the future of work. In Singapore, we are very excited about the opportunities that the future holds. In Southeast Asia, there are 380 million youths below the age of 35, forming around 60% of the total population. A study by the World Economic Forum found that youths in Southeast Asia are mostly optimistic about the impact of technology on the job market. Many youths also have a strong entrepreneurial drive, with 25% wanting to start their own business. Technology provides our youths with more opportunities in the future. For a small country like Singapore, leveraging technological developments enables us to overcome our physical constraints by opening up access to new markets as well as enlarging our outreach. Homegrown Singaporean e-commerce platforms like Lazada and Shopee, with monthly average visits of 174 million and 200 million respectively, exemplify this shift. However, Singapore's youths also feel the impact of increasing anti-globalization and technological disruptions. Tensions among the world's larger economies threaten international trade and overall growth. With the rapid pace of technological advancement, youths are also concerned about staying competitive and relevant in the future workplace. In the face of these developments, Singapore aims to continue providing opportunities and support for all our youths. First, we invest heavily in our people, our strongest and only resource. We're committed to providing quality and affordable education to all Singaporeans. We focus on the development, the holistic development of every child, equipping them with sound character values, strong academic foundations, and the ability to apply their knowledge in the real world. Among each youth birth cohort, 25% go on to attend vocational training, 47% attend publicly funded diploma programs, and 36% enroll in full-time publicly funded degree courses. At the individual level, we also believe that it is important for youths to embrace lifelong learning. In 2014, we launched Skills Future, a national movement to encourage Singaporeans to upgrade their skills and continue learning. Individuals are given credits to attend a variety of courses, ranging from healthcare to business management. There are also industry-relevant training programs that focus on emerging skills, such as data analytics, digital media, and entrepreneurship. We believe that improving one's skills and continuing to learn is the best way to remain relevant in the fast-changing global economy. As a result of these efforts, the employment outcomes of our youths are good. The majority of tertiary graduates are employed within 6 months of graduation. Long-term unemployment rates for youths remain stable at under 1%. The starting salaries for graduates of various institutions has also steadily increased. In spite of changing skills demands, employers have given feedback that our graduates are increasingly well prepared for the workplace. Beyond education and employment, we also support our youths to attain their aspirations. In Singapore, 90% of resident households own their own home. So it is no surprise that home ownership continues to be a top priority for the youths. We have therefore recently increased public housing grants and provide schemes to make public housing more affordable and accessible for youths who want to start their own families. Looking outwards, we also want to enable youths to participate in many opportunities overseas. Southeast Asia is the fastest growing startup and technology market in the world, and the region presents many opportunities for youths from all over the world. We provide youths with opportunities to develop their overseas experience through internships and attachments or leadership exchange programs. And very often, when opportunities like the Misk Global Forum come our way, we make sure to expose our youth to it. And this is the reason why I bring with me 4 youth leaders from Singapore to learn from all the youth leaders who are gathered at this forum. Through these programs, we hope that they can build up cultural understanding and develop overseas networks of friends. It is also crucial to involve youths in the policy-making process so that they feel that they have a voice and a stake in the country's future. In Singapore, we started the Singapore Youth Action Plan as a platform to provide youths with the opportunity to network, to learn best practices, knowledge and skills. And I'm sure that many of the youths who are here will feel better.
Speaker is equally impressive. At the age of 22, she became the United Arab Emirates Minister of Youth Affairs. Please join me in welcoming on stage Her Excellency Shayma Al-Mazroui.
His Royal Highness Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman Al Saud, Your Highnesses, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, good evening. I'd like to first thank His Royal Highness the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman for his bold vision and continuous effort to empower youth, and His Excellency Badr al-Asakar, who brings this vision of learning and leadership in Saudi youth to life. I think we all know we're entering a new era in the nature of work. Automation and AI are guaranteed game changers in determining who the modern worker will be, but also in demanding how that modern worker will be. And we all get lost in an ocean of data. In life's frenetic, hyperactive pace, we try to absorb, as young people, what is available to us, what is best for us, and who we are in it. But we all realize that linear profit and productivity are no longer sufficient ends. Success in work must support success in life, and we are no longer able to adapt humanity to these linear systems. We must adjust our systems to support our holistic humanity. And let me clarify, at a time how we're humanizing our world, we must also humanize our work. And I see that in 2 ways. We have 2 major challenges in the landscape of young people as workers today: volume and quality. The era of youth at work has changed. Workers used to go to work to make a living. We now go to work to make meaning. The second aspect is concepts related to Maslow's hierarchy. There's millions of other youth around the world. They're still going to work simply to make a living. There are not enough jobs, and here is where the volume kicks in. We must make our workplace more human by the quantity and quality of the jobs we provide. What I want to discuss today is the central question that we all face with courage and with candor. What does it mean to make a workplace more human? Even with rapidly accelerating technology, global productivity is still driven by human beings. People spend more time at work than they do with their families, than they do in their communities, or even sleeping. The experience we have at work shapes the quality of our lives in and out of work. And this is important because when you look at the recent Gallup poll survey of engaged employees, the vast majority of worldwide employees report an overall negative experience at work. 1 in 8 workers around the world are committed to and engaged in their jobs. Only 1 in 8. let's ask the question, how much in the MENA region? But before that, I'm going to define 3 things: engaged workers, disengaged workers, and actively disengaged workers on a spectrum by Steve Crabtree. Engaged workers are workers who work with passion, who feel profound connection to their work. Disengaged are checked out, sleepwalking in work. They put in time but not their energy. And actively disengaged are those who are not just only unhappy at work, but they're busy acting out on this unhappiness. And it can take so many different forms against their organization's progress. And the reality is shocking. In the MENA region, the largest number of worldwide workforce that's actively disengaged is here. 55% of the workforce in the MENA region are disengaged. 35% are actively disengaged. And these factors are directly counter to the progress that we want, or the plans for our nations and our region going forward. If that doesn't scare you, you either are a disengaged worker or perhaps it does. So what if we double the number of engaged workers right now in the MENA region, which is only 14%? Imagine how quickly that would fix our regional GDP, our productivity, and even human development. And this is why it's important, precisely. We need to focus on embracing the human factors of our work. So beyond our brain and our body at work, employers must engage our hearts, our spirits, our emotional intelligence, our family, our community wellness, our overall well-being, and our satisfaction. Because people today want to feel seen. They want to feel valued and included. People want to matter, not just be a number. And people need to find a profound connection to their work and their organization. And maybe it's in our time, a best way of explaining the importance of humanizing our work is asking a worker to work without the human factors is like asking them to breathe without oxygen. And the best person who said that was the Dalai Lama. We are human beings, not human doings. So what should we do? I think a lot of the responses right now to this data is we're blaming the workers or youth to become more engaged, to crack the whip and insist that they work harder. But I think young people are intelligent, capable human beings, and we as governments must go beyond blaming workers. We must engage young people, and we must understand how humans connect, what motivates them to be engaged. Because if you put inputs that are just physical human beings, you will only get limited outputs. But if you engage human workers in all the ways that make us human, we are going to meet all the human needs. The data is very clear for all organizations and governments. We need to take responsibility for closing the gap between treating humans like machines and empowering them to work in areas or occupations that robots don't. So let's make sure that we keep or understand that machines are machines and humans are humans, and not confusing both. I think it's important that governments start to focus on eliminating what reduces stress and increases vibrancy in young people as a workforce. Newsweek calls us the most stressed and anxious generation yet. I have no illusions that the increased focus on good humanized work is easy, but I'm confident that it's essential, and I'm confident that it's possible. And I challenge everyone at Misk today to share boldly and innovatively how can governments do that. We are human beings, not human doings. How do you want a workplace to support you in being the best human that does your best doing? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I think you are living proof that age is nothing but a number. Last, but certainly not least, we are delighted to have on stage our final speaker, who is the chairperson of the National Creative Industries in Kuwait. She's also the former Undersecretary for Youth and the government official who drafted the first national youth policy in Kuwait. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Her Excellency Sheikh Zain Sabah Al-Sabah.
Your Royal Highnesses, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's such a pleasure and an honor being in this room full of game changers. In a transformational era, one where change is happening at lightning speed, I can just say that we're living in a very exciting era of disruption. Disruption is truly the new normal. I would like to summarize everything that my incredible colleagues mentioned here today. We are, as you know, living in an era of digitization, of globalization, of changing demographics that impact the way we live, the way our societies function and our economies as well. Crucial and central to these changes are the way we interact with each other, the kind of services and products we consume, also really what we dream and how we dream. And tensions here will rise inevitably when it comes to thinking about our education and our health, the divide between our welfare and our income. And we seriously need to sit down and think, where do we fit within this new trajectory? When sitting with my colleagues today, I noticed something quite incredible. These young women today all work in public service, giving their time, their energy, investing everything they have to build policies and platforms that will further empower our youth communities. I chose to do something completely different. I started my career in the private sector for a few years, working in companies all around the world in media. But then when the call for service came, I had the pleasure of joining the Ministry of State for Youth Affairs. I served as Undersecretary for about 6 years and absolutely enjoyed being able to tap into the grassroots movement of change, of modernization, of reform in Kuwait. In Kuwait, youth make up 72% of the population. So it is always, I say it with great pride, that I used to work for the Ministry of Kuwait rather than the Ministry of Youth. And under kind of the team building exercises that we did, we made sure that we looked at humane workplace and creating a humane workplace as central to all the outputs that we were going to deliver to the youth community. So we started off on a grassroots level and we built on a bottoms-up approach. We worked with stakeholders within the 6 governance in Kuwait to build a national referendum based on His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Sabah's vision. We were able to do so really with the full support of the youth from day one. And I must tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that it was the privilege and honor of my life to be working with youth. However, after working at the Youth Ministry for 6 years, I decided to go back to the grassroots platform to start working from the bottom-down approach, however, without the hat of the public servant. I decided to join the private sector again and gravitate towards a more inclusive and growth-driven, let's say, society by working from the bottom level. So with that in mind, as I stress the need to fill the gaps that are so apparent in our society today, the gaps that perhaps we become siloed in when we think, I'm a government worker, I'm a public servant, and I will only fit in this box. Please reimagine what your future may look like when you instead look at the larger picture and look at the gaps that need to be filled rather than the gaps that actually fill you. Now, with that in mind, I also need to reiterate the fact that we do absolutely need to refocus on our people and their well-being, whether it be in the public sector or the private sector. It's important today to tap into what makes us human on all levels, tap into the human factor. Question everything. Look at your creativity, your curiosity, your ability to take initiatives, your ability to push the envelope, to take risks, to be multidisciplinary as you push forward in your quest to find your own paths and your own careers. I must stress that we are gravitating very much away from the traditional model of you get an education, then you get employed, and then perhaps you retire. We're moving really towards a very multi-layered model where you start off perhaps with an education, then you transition into some sort of exploration mode before you become fully employed in an organization. And then you actually transition out of that mode and become self-employed. That's what we're seeing a lot of our people doing before taking on a portfolio of paid and unpaid work and then retiring. This is a beautiful thing. The dynamic, the energy, the potential that comes out of this model is immense. We're gravitating away from a job for life model to a life of jobs. Of course, this can sound like a lot because you need to specialize in different areas, of course. However, it's important to note that a lot of governments around the world are meeting that challenge by providing a pipeline of lifelong learning, one that enables young men and women to tap into their experiences in order to nurture this multitude of careers. So with that in mind, however, I need to stress that government officials everywhere need to understand that policy needs to work swiftly and dynamically in order to meet these challenges, in order to meet these multidisciplinary needs. To do that, we need to look at our social protection plans. We need to look at our lifelong learning pipelines and our collective bargaining chips. We need to provide this to our youth community as we move forward. All these are essential to be able to prevent any sort of disruption or any sort of gap between our income and our opportunities, any sort of gap between needs and expectations, and also to be able to gain the trust of the youth community moving forward and allow them to know that they are fully supported on all fronts. We need to also work with stakeholders in the community, and the government is just one of the many stakeholders, to be able to provide a web of services and learning strategies and skills to our people working in middle-skilled jobs. And I stress middle-skilled jobs as being the jobs that, as modern history has shown, will become automated in the near future. So we need to be careful about that. And with that in mind, we need to also, again, tap into really our intrinsic humanity, into what makes us erratic. We're not perfect. We're not perfect as humans. We need to tap into our erratic natures, our unpredictable natures, our willingness to take risks. That needs to be put into a quantifiable formula moving forward when we draft our policies. That said, I'm very optimistic about the future, and I look forward to joining this panel. Thank you.
Excellent speech. Right, so let's see what we can do with the little time we have left. Usually I start by saying ladies first, but on this occasion, I'll just go in the order of seating. Your Highness, over the past 3 years, we have lived unprecedented changes in the kingdom. As you pointed out in your speech, the mere fact that you were on stage delivering a speech to start with, then talking about leading the Formula E and your work at Saudi Tourism, which is another unprecedented change in itself, the fact that within quite inspirational. First of all, did you get it easy because you are a princess?
Not at all. So I think like more challenging. But I grew up, maybe I was blessed from a perspective where I grew up in a world where I had many women in my life that were role models from my family, some of which are in this room today. And you go within that. There's no reason for you not to strive. And it's not about being a woman or being from one gender or the other or one country or the other. It's not about that. You're always going to face obstacles. You need to be determined. You need to know what you want. You need to know what it is you want to do. And you need to go after it. Learn. You're going to make mistakes. Pick yourself up, keep going. Don't let that bring you back, and don't let that hold you back.
As a government official, and you're involved in some of the policy making, I have to confess, even as a journalist whose job is to report this news, it is just too much to put our head around all the changes that has happened over the past few years and indeed over the past few months. Do you think that women in Saudi Arabia are aware of the size of the opportunity, women or men, by the way, with all the changes that have happened recently? And what would your advice be to women who are about to get their first job in their life?
So I think the generation now that's starting to work, you're absolutely right. Maybe specifically with women, they don't understand just how much they are able to do today. Prince Abdulaziz before me on this panel said it's equal pay. For me, as an employer, when somebody comes forward, I don't look at name, I don't look at gender, I don't look at age, I look at qualification. And based on that qualification, I give the job offer. It has, women have equal pay. It's the reality. We are one of the first countries where women have equal pay. And this is something that I'm very proud of. And women here, sitting here today, need to understand that there were so many barriers that were brought down for you. And it's about understanding your true potential and believing that you can do it, because believe me, Formula E was delivered by a team that was made up 80% of women. They can do it, and they have the potential, and now they have all the support, they have all the empowerment, and the same applies for men. The government is pro-youth, it's pro-training programs, it's pro-education, it's trying. We introduced music into schooling a few days ago, not even a few weeks ago. We are empowering everyone, no matter what your career is, no matter what your hobby is, no matter what your passion is, there is a place for you. Go after it.
Great. On that note, I would like to move to Your Excellency. Sim, we're talking now perhaps about women's rights, but should we be talking about human rights? In essence, that every conference we go to, we talk about the fear of automation of jobs, the fear of artificial intelligence. They say that in a few years' time, you're either working for a robot or you own a robot. In countries like Japan, this is where the population is much older. They welcome this news because it helps them with their daily lives. In parts of the world, such as our country, where the population is predominantly youth, should we be alarmed?
I think of automation, AI, robotics as actually tools that allow us to distill jobs to their most human elements. Those elements that are repetitive, that really perhaps cause disengagement, like what Her Excellency Shama has mentioned. Actually, many of these could be automated, allowing the employee to then focus on those elements that I think call on human empathy, care, call on making that connection. Incidentally, these also happen to be qualities that I think women happen to excel in. So I think almost every job that you can think of, you will be able to identify those elements that perhaps could be automated. It's not to the detriment, I feel, of the workforce. On the contrary, it allows, I think, more human skills to be developed, and I think it also makes for a more engaging workplace. I'll give you an example. In Singapore, we promote the digitization of businesses, including small and medium enterprises. A jewelry store is a very traditional business, but what many people don't realize is that a very tedious part of what workers in the jewelry store do is inventory taking at the end of the day. The goods are very small in dimensions, but very high in value. And when something goes missing, stores lock down and the employees will have to check everything again. So many hours are wasted. And we had one company that decided to adopt RFID technology in order to simplify the inventory taking time, not because she wanted to reduce the kind of jobs available, but precisely because she saw how much stress inventory taking was causing her employees, particularly the more senior employees who found it very difficult to be doing repetitive counting, especially after hours. So I think that when you start with human care and empathy, actually
technology can be employed precisely to make people enjoy their work more.
Excellent comment. Shama, we talked a little bit backstage about your experience. Her Highness spoke a little bit about being invisible when she first started her first job. I'm sure you added being a minister at such a young age to being a woman to your many challenges. I think if anybody had any doubt, only listening to your speech would have completely shredded that doubt. But what would your advice be for a fresh graduate or somebody with a little bit of insecurity going to taking on an interesting challenge? What would you recommend they do to succeed?
If I may, I'll share one of the best advices I got when I graduated. And it was related to Confucius' quote that says there's 3 methods to learn wisdom. 1 is by reflection, which is the noblest. 2 by imitation, which is the easiest. And 3 by experience, which is the bitterest. And what I took from that is very simple, that it's time to reflect on your learning curve. I think we as people put our learning curves or kind of how we learn into blocks. Childhood, formal schooling, steep curve. And then when we enter the workforce, where this comes in, and is very important because as you graduate, it plateaus. And I think that's the wrong part of the equation. It's time for reflection for every young person to start to think. Just as Sheikh Zain said, we're now into a world where we're going to enter so many different jobs, not just one career, and it's crucial to keep learning. So I think instead of having a plateau learning curve, always keep your learning curve steep. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Your Excellency, life of jobs versus jobs for life.
It's very overwhelming, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Look, it wasn't long ago where people's utmost ambition in life, especially in Saudi Arabia or in the Arab part of the world, is to land a comfy government job where nobody really cares about output or attendance, and you stay in your job for 23 years. I think until recently there was actually a law that prohibited you from being fired. So why would you want to leave that comfort zone? And we hear now about entrepreneurships and startups and, don't fear of failure. And, a lot of people, if you don't mind me saying, believe it's just talk. So can I ask you please to challenge that thought a little bit?
It's a matter of whether or not you're content. So if you're content in the way you function as a human in this world, good for you. That's incredible. I need to learn from you. However, with the changing technologies today, in this era of globalization, if you want to even think about staying ahead of the curve, then you need to start to break that glass ceiling and challenge yourself and move away from your comfort zone. I know it sounds, again, overwhelming, but I must tell you, 15-year-olds today, I don't know, do we have anyone below the age 15 or below here in the audience? شوية أكبر. Anyways, average 15-year-olds today will take up a portfolio of about 17 jobs in 5 different industries in their lifetime. So if you want to remain in your government job and be cushioned on all fronts, please know that you will one day, and I don't want to sound skeptical here, be redundant. Because middle-skilled jobs and low-skilled jobs within the next 15 to 20 years will become phased out because of automation. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Modern history, as I stated, has shown that anything that we can teach a large number of people to do via a fixed set of skills, we can absolutely teach computers to do better. So step up, step away from your comfort zones, and believe me, you will find an incredible web of support waiting for you.
Right. I'm afraid we don't have much time. I do want to apologize for the audience, but the previous panel went slightly over time, so we don't have time for questions and answers. But I'm going to steal a few seconds and ask each one of you to offer either a necessary skill or a job that you think a fresh graduate needs to consider. Your Highness, starting with you.
I pick the skill because there's not a specific job. The skill is that you need to be adaptable. In today's world, you need to be adaptable.
So be adaptable.
I'd say skill, and I would go for active listening. I think this is one thing that can never be automated.
Adaptable, listening.
Skill, and I think self-compassion over self-confidence.
Confidence.
No, self-compassion.
Self-compassion. That's 3.
Skill, and I think it's curiosity and resilience.
Resilience. There you go, a recipe for success. I just want to share a personal note. So about 2 years ago, I took a personal pledge not to participate in any panel that doesn't have any female representation. I had to, thank you. I am just honored that I've had to break that pledge in countries outside of Saudi Arabia, but I am honored that in my country, thanks to the change that are happening, I've managed to keep the pledge, and with a fantastic audience, with a fantastic panel such as yourselves. Thank you so much. It was an honor being your moderator. Thank you, and I'll leave you now for the next session. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage براء لحيد.
ضيوفنا الكرام، رحبوا معنا على المنصة ببراء الحيد.
Good evening, everyone. Can I get your attention? Are you having a good time? Who is here enjoying their time? Clap your hands if you're enjoying your time. That's what I like to hear. Awesome. Today, I'll be introducing an inspiring woman, a writer, a philanthropist. Please welcome Her Highness Sarah, the Duchess of York.
Hello, Bara.
Welcome to Saudi.
Thank you so much. I'm
How is your
thrilled to be
experience so
here.
far?
It's so fantastic, and Your Royal Highnesses, Your Excellencies, really, it's incredible. And
amazing.
His Excellency Badr Al-Alaska, fantastic event. And oh my goodness, Sheikha Shaima is fantastic to do Misk.
Absolutely.
And I'm just really proud to be here, and I love being in Saudi Arabia. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I cannot really stop myself but comment, like, you have a really gorgeous look. And the fact that, yeah, you've been inspired by the Saudi tradition, that's amazing.
Thank you so much. No, I love it. It's really comfortable.
Amazing. So I've been living in the United States for a while, specifically in the Bay Area, and I've noticed the concept of adversity and the failure is very different. It seems like something you learn from rather than something you dramatize by. What is your view of that?
So what do you actually mean by that question?
I mean by the diversity and the failure, especially
Yes.
here in the audience.
But I loved what all these wonderful panels have been saying, is that be diversified. And for all these young people out there, I'm 60 and I'm just beginning my working life. So keep doing it. Yes, thank you. And thank you very much for staying, by the way, those of you who've stayed. But I think it's really important. I'm so diversified that all the old wizards of life have said to me, oh, you need to be focused, only focus on one thing. And I'm saying, no, keep your open mind. And if you want to write a book, write a book. If you want to make tea, make tea. But to really just give your heart to everything you do. And so I thought it was brilliant when the Minister for Energy said, His Royal Highness said, I'm an embodiment of failure. I'm an embodiment of failure, and I love it. Mm-hmm. It's really cool.
Right. And also, I think like most of the people here, like young, some of them students, some of them entrepreneurs, or like in the corporate world, and they usually like face this kind of, say struggles and failure. The next question is, how working in philanthropy affected your career and your personal life?
Right. Does everybody know that I made up a word? Okay, for those of you who don't know who I made up a word, Antonia can put it up on the screen. It's called philanthropreneur, and it is where you take entrepreneurship from philanthropy. So it's Mohammed Yunus was brilliant at it when he said social impact microfinance, the smile of a child, the health of a nation from the heart. And so when I went into the middle of nowhere, whether it be Africa or India or wherever it might be, and I build schools and primary care and health in primary care is my main objective, I realized that if you could help people by teaching them a skill, you don't give them fish, you give them the rod. And then they learn to fish, and then they become teachers and they teach more children. And by that, they can go into handicrafts, they can go into jobs, and they can work for FISU, like you, brilliant lady you are, Bara. And so suddenly they've got self-respect, dignity, and they've got hope. Don't we all need hope? And my one finger is joy. Right? I don't know if you've done your one finger, but mine is joy. And I'm just saying that it's so important that if you can make a marketplace, an e-commerce place, where you can sell the handicrafts made by all these people who are out in the field, then you're making entrepreneurs of these people. So philanthropy has shown me entrepreneurship. So that's why I chose that word. It's good, isn't it?
Amazing. It is fantastic, yeah. And I guess by now we call you Sarah of Arabia, right? With the whole,
Yes,
look,
thank you so much for that.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Thank you. Actually, you know why it's Sarah of Arabia? Because I'm going to wear your FISU line.
Oh, yeah?
She's created FISU. Activewear. Yes, thank you. Isn't that good? Anyway, so I've decided I'm going to challenge every young person in the audience. Is there anybody still awake in the audience? Oh, good. That's a start. Okay, right. So I'm going to challenge everybody in the audience that would like to make a documentary about Bara and I going to the poorest area of Saudi Arabia and building primary care health centers for children. And thank you. And I'd like to do it, and I'm going to wear her FISU's activewear on my white horse, because I'm going to ride an Arabian horse, so that I arrive in the villages, not in a car with big escorts and blue flashing lights, but I'm just going to arrive on a horse, get off my horse, and say, how can we help you? Right? And I think it's so important. Thank you. Very good. So now I need you all to understand I'm very deadly serious. So I've spoken to this great Minister of Social Services tonight. Then I spoke to another Minister of Health, right? And then we're going into the worst area and building primary care, health care on a horse with Bara. So who's gonna help me make the documentary? Hey, thank you very much. So what we need is a production team. I'm sure we can get financing from somebody in the audience if there's anybody left. Production team, script writing. What else do we need? A horse.
A horse.
You're going to, yay, very good. Oh no, you three are leaving. Where are you going? Oh no, we've lost 3 already, Bara. Well, there's a nice man over there who's still there. Yay, fantastic.
We'll get to him.
Do you know who they are?
No.
No, but never mind. They'll come afterwards. Okay, so it's good news, because when I was talking to the minister, I was lucky enough to sit there. Can you see behind that man? Can you see me? Hello. When I was sitting next door to him, he's such a nice man, he said the most important objective that the Saudi government want to do is deal with primary care, health care for children. I didn't know that till I told him. So this is real, and I'll be riding on my horse with FISU's clothes.
Amazing. And
so you better do it.
And for you who doesn't know what is FISU, it's a Saudi brand for modest sportswear for women in Saudi.
Yeah, you see, modest. You're so brave. You're so strong.
Yeah,
and you lead by example for all these young people. They're looking at you going, if she can do it, I can do it.
I should, yes. Yeah. Everyone should do that.
And if I can ride a horse, you can ride a horse. Now, come on.
And I believe also, like, from your challenges too, like, you can transfer everything you can face in your way in order to make it, like, every challenge to make it a way or a path for you?
The most important thing is when the obstacles come at you, there will be so many obstacles and they will really hurt you, and you'll think, and your self-esteem will go down. Mine has gone down many times. But as soon as you've got to learn to transmute the obstacle back out to the person and make them realize they're projecting onto you. They have no right to question you on your dreams. You have your dreams and you show up for yourself. And you did. You asked a great question, didn't you? Can you stand up? I'm looking right at you. Yes. Didn't you ask a great question? You wanted to know, yes, you did. It was great. And you were very brave to ask it, by the way. But in answer to your question, I would answer it that you should show up for yourself. And don't let anybody doubt you. But the worst person at doubting you would be yourself. So get out of your own way, because your dreams are right, and you should be respected to have your dreams. And I must say, I must say that it's taken me 60 years to understand everything I'm talking to you about. But it's pretty cool to be able to stand up here for young people, because I really don't like grown-ups. So I'm really about 0 to what should we say, 22, 0 to 35. Okay, that's fine. And I'm not going further than that. It's too boring.
Actually, I think a lot of young people in the room, they're wondering, what inspires you most in this life? What keeps you going?
Oh, my goodness.
What is the energy,
Oh, my goodness. Thank you for the question, Bara.
Seriously, I think it's important for every one of us to have this source of energy to keep us going.
Yes.
So.
Well, I think it's quite fun that everybody said, oh, Fergie, go away and shut up and be quiet. And I don't know whether it's the Irish redhead in me, but I never gave up. And I think you've heard tonight many panels where everyone said, don't give up. Mm-hmm. And I think this here is, I'm the first visiting professor of philanthropreneurship in the world. And I think that's really an achievement. I really do. And I think it's about going out in the field and you see a child that is unable to walk, that is blind, turning to you and saying, thank you for coming. And that teaches me humility, forgiveness, and love. And it teaches me not to, my grandmother was right when she said, always give to others, never give to yourself. Because in giving to others, you will feel better about life. And it's the children that saved my life. I think, Ant, you've got a picture of one of those children, haven't you, somewhere?
That's so true.
Yes, those are my children. And they're in Africa, and I said in 1992, go to the poorest place, forgotten children, forgotten people, forgotten lives. And I went, and every single one of these children now at university. That's Ruby. That's Ruby. Ruby, I can tell you here and now, look at Ruby. You asked me that question, right? And you look at Ruby. Ruby will be married. She's 11 years old. She'll be married at the age of 12 because she lives in the poorest part of Nepal and nobody wants her. I said to her, Ruby, what do you want to do with your life? She says, I want to be a lawyer. I want to be educated. I said, then educated you will. We shall build your primary care center. We shall build you a school, and we shall give you that life. And that's my foundation work, and that's what I believe is right. And that's what I'm giving to Saudi Arabia as of right this second. Right? There's Ruby. I won't let her down. Will you, Bara?
I think this is really amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And that's Joseph. Just quickly, this is the poorest dump in Sierra Leone. It's where all the plastics are. So the houses we're going to build for primary care, healthcare, will be made out of plastics from the ocean. And they can go up in 3 days and down in 3 days. So the Saudi Arabian people will be leaders globally of what can be done. It's huge, absolutely huge. And I'm happy to commit that to Saudi Arabia because I like it here. You're absolutely right, John. The people are charming, everybody's really kind, and I like to be here. So this guy, Joseph, he, just quickly before we go, Bara, but I walked onto that dump and he had his head down, his shoulders down, and nobody wanted to talk to him. And I went up to him and said, what are you doing? He said, I'm picking up the bottles because 10 pence will be able to go back to my parents. And I said, but you called me ma'am. And you said, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Are you educated? He said, I was, I'm 15, and I want to go and be a lawyer, but I can't now because I have to do this for my parents. And I said, how much is it to go to school for 1 year in Sierra Leone? £30. I said, fine. What if we get you to school, would you put your chin up and your shoulders back and walk with pride? And he said, yes, ma'am. And as I walked out, I said, have you ever seen a redhead in Sierra Leone? He said, no, ma'am. I said, you see? Perfect. And I said, you never forget the woman with red hair. And as I turned round, I just saw him put his shoulders back, his chin up, and he went, yes, ma'am. And I think that's good. That's what it should be. Bless him. So there
Such an honor to have you again with us in Saudi. And also I wanted to ask you one last question in terms of your writing. As everyone acknowledged that you have some of your books as of your biography, one of your bestsellers, New York bestsellers, and also you've been writing in kids books.
Yes.
So can you tell us more about that?
Well, Prince Andrew, who is the greatest day of my life, was marrying Prince Andrew on the 23rd of July, 1986. The finest man, the finest father, and the best person I know in the world. And he flew a helicopter. And so when he was talking to me, he talked in abbreviation, like pilots do. And I said, I've no idea what you're talking about. So I went to learn to fly helicopters. So I flew fixed wing first and then helicopters. You see, you can do anything. If you want to. And so that's Budgie the helicopter. And then I went on to thank the American people for giving me back my life, because I worked for Weight Watchers, and I took them from 6 million members to 32 million members in America. And I wanted to thank them for giving me my life and a job. I had a good job being a spokesperson. So I drew Little Red on a napkin. And when I saw the front page of Newsweek in Oklahoma City bombing, they put the bomb in the creche. I saw that picture, flew to Oklahoma City, found the child, went to lunch, drew Little Red on a napkin, and then I made her up. Took her to FAO Schwartz, made her up into a doll, Little Red, and I sold her for $20 a doll, and started a foundation in America, which is, really important to me. The office was on the 101st floor of the World Trade Center, and cut to all those years later, in the North Tower, on the 101st floor, Little Red came down from 101 floors, and a fireman found Little Red in the rubble, and picked her up and put her in his helmet, like how the man who'd saved PJ, and carried her out of the disaster of 9/11. And CNN filmed it and said, "Look, a child's doll." And Larry King said, "That's no child's doll. That's Fergie's Little Red, and she stands for children's rights all over the world." And from that day, thank you. And from that day, I went on to give Little Red to Ground Zero Museum. And if you go to Ground Zero Museum right now, you'll see Little Red in her glass case. And underneath it says, "The only object that survived the North Tower of 9/11.
Amazing.
So we're out of time, but I think it's important, that every single thing I've done all my life is to make sure that the smile of a child, the health of a nation, is from the heart.
Thank you so much. We're so honored to have you here.
I mean, yeah. Farah, you've done so well.
I have a lot of questions, but unfortunately, we don't have enough time.
I know, but we've done well, haven't we, Barra?
We did. We did. Thank you.
We've managed to keep some of our audience.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Barra.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please give another huge round of applause to these delightful ladies.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're allowed to depart now. Well, what an amazing beginning session for today for the Misk Global Forum. I, in fact, have learned an enormous amount. And in fact, what I loved about what we just heard there is that idea of putting a smile on a child, very similar, in fact, to what His Royal Highness was talking about in terms of bringing joy into your life as well as work. A couple of other things I noted: making mistakes, learning from them, taking opportunities, testing your barriers. And I I was reflecting, actually, listening to the number of jobs that other people had up here on stage. I myself have been a political analyst, an event organizer. I've worked in marketing for a startup. I'm now a journalist, a podcaster, and I'm an event MC. And I also do some communication training. So that whole idea of having not just one career but many is something that even us Gen Xers are familiar with as well. Now, if you've liked anything that you've heard today and want to share it with your friends, you can get it on YouTube, which is pretty exciting, and I only just learned that. Tomorrow, there's going to be quite a lot going on. We've got sessions here in the plenary. I've, in fact, got 2 of them, so I'm looking at all of you here, and I expect to see you at those. We also have sessions in Workflow, Workplace, and the Workforce, and remember where you sign up for those on the Misk Global Forum app. And over in this corner, we've got the Entrepreneurship World Cup. The contestants continuing their pitches in that corner. And if you don't want to sign up for anything, but just want to turn up, you can go to the events in the Majlis just around the corridor. And one thing that I noticed on my walk through the corridors was that content is indeed everywhere here at Misk. You can see it in the halls, in the workplaces, and everywhere as you go down. One of those places, if you ever need a moment of calm, that I found today is a really beautiful moment in the art section, where you can go in and experience some video art. I did it last year, I did it this year, and it's always one of my favorite things. So use the app, create the event that you want to help you create your own future of work, so that we can say, as His Royal Highness said so aptly today, mission accomplished. Thank you.